This rich rancher was forced to date a paralyzed obese girl, but he ended up liking her. Wade Thornton stood at the window of his ranch house, watching the sun paint the Montana sky in shades of crimson and gold. At 32, he owned the largest cattle operation in 3 counties, a legacy built by his grandfather, and expanded by his own relentless work. He had everything a man could want, except freedom from his grandmother's iron will. "You'll meet her tomorrow," Grandmother Thornton had announced last week, her cane tapping against the hardwood floor with finality. "The Shepherds are good people, and they need our help. Their medical bills have buried them." Wade knew the story. Everyone in Copper Creek did. Sarah Shepherd had been the town's golden girl, valedictorian destined for veterinary school, until a riding accident 2 years ago left her paralyzed from the waist down. Her family's small ranch had been slowly consumed by hospital debt. "So you're buying me a wife?" Wade had asked, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. "I'm saving a family from ruin and giving you a chance at something real," his grandmother had replied. "You've dated every empty-headed buckle bunny from here to Billings. Maybe it's time you met someone with substance." The arrangement was simple. Wade would pay off the Shepherd family's debts, invest in their struggling ranch, and court Sarah for 6 months. If they didn't suit, they'd part as friends, and the financial agreement would stand. His grandmother had made it clear this was happening whether he liked it or not. The family owed her more than money could repay, and this was how she'd chosen to collect. Now, driving up the rutted road to the Shepherd place, Wade felt like a man headed for his own execution. The ranch house was small but well kept, flower boxes bright against weathered wood. He'd barely knocked before the door swung open. Sarah's father, Tom Shepherd, had aged a decade in 2 years, but his handshake was still firm, his eyes still proud despite the circumstances. "She's in the living room," Tom said quietly. "And Wade? She doesn't want this any more than you do." That should have prepared him. It didn't. Sarah Shepherd sat in a wheelchair by the window, backlit by afternoon sun. She was heavy-set, her body bearing the weight that often came with immobility. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup. She wore jeans and a flannel shirt, and when she turned to look at him, her dark eyes held nothing but cool assessment. "So," she said, her voice steady and surprisingly deep, "you're the rich rancher my parents sold me to." Wade felt heat creep up his neck. "That's not... Please." She wheeled herself closer, moving with practiced efficiency. "Let's not pretend this is anything other than what it is. You need whatever your grandmother's forcing you to need, and my family needs to keep our home. We'll play this game for 6 months, then you can ride off into the sunset with a clear conscience." Her bluntness caught him off guard. He'd expected tears, or gratitude, or anger, not this matter-of-fact acceptance. "I was going to suggest a dinner," he said finally. How romantic. But a ghost of a smile tugged at her lips. "There's a diner in town that has a ramp. We can get this over with." The first dinner was awkward. The second was slightly less so. By the fourth, Wade found himself actually looking forward to their meetings. Sarah was sharp-witted and well-read, with opinions on everything from cattle breeding to foreign policy. She'd spent her convalescence consuming books, taking online courses, and learning everything she could about ranch management from her wheelchair. "I can't work the way I used to," she'd told him over coffee, her hands wrapped around a mug decorated with horses, "but I can still be useful. I've been handling my family's books, researching grant programs, finding ways to cut costs. Did you know there's a federal program for adaptive ranching equipment? I got us a lift system for the barn, cut our labor cost by 30%. Wade had stared at her, reassessing everything he'd assumed. "You should meet my foreman," he'd said. "He's been complaining about efficiency for months." The meeting led to Sarah spending afternoons at the Thornton ranch, rolling through the barns and offices with a tablet and a critical eye. She found redundancies in their feed orders, negotiated better rates with suppliers, and designed a new rotation system that improved grazing efficiency. "Your grandmother was right," Wade's foreman, Pete, had muttered. "Girls got more brains than half the cowboys put together." But it was the small moments that caught Wade off guard. The way Sarah's face lit up when she talked about horses, even though she couldn't ride anymore. How she'd sit for hours in the pasture, just watching the cattle, pointing out which calves showed promise and which cows needed medical attention. Her laugh, when he finally earned it, was full-bodied and genuine, nothing held back. One evening, 6 weeks into their arrangement, Wade found her crying in the barn. Sarah? He approached carefully, unsure of his welcome. She wiped her eyes roughly. It's stupid. Tell me anyway. I used to work with the horses. That was going to be my life. Veterinary medicine, specializing in equine care. And now I'm just this. Useful from the neck up maybe, but not who I was supposed to be. Wade sat down on a hay bale, bringing himself to her eye level. You know what Pete told me yesterday? He said hiring you was the smartest thing I'd ever done. Said you saved us more money in 2 months than he'd managed in 2 years. That's not the same as… No, it's not, Wade interrupted gently. But maybe who you're becoming is different from who you planned to be. Doesn't make it less. She looked at him then. Really looked. And something shifted between them. The kiss happened in week 10. Unexpected and earth-shaking. They'd been reviewing livestock records in Wade's office. Heads bent together over spreadsheets when Sarah had made a joke about his handwriting. Wade had laughed. And somehow their faces were close and then closer. And then his lips were on hers. And the world narrowed to that single point of contact. When they broke apart, Sarah's eyes were wide. Wade, don't, he said, his voice rough. Don't say it was a mistake. Don't say it doesn't mean anything. I was going to say, she replied softly, that I've wanted you to do that for 3 weeks. After that, everything changed, and nothing did. They still worked together, still argued about hay prices and vaccination schedules. But now his hand would find hers, or he'd press a kiss to her temple when he thought no one was watching. His grandmother noticed. Of course. Told you that girl had substance, she said smugly one Sunday dinner. You're a meddling old woman, Wade replied, but he was smiling. And you're happier than I've seen you in 10 years. She wasn't wrong. Sarah challenged him, made him laugh, made him think. She didn't see his money or his name. She saw him, flaws and all, and somehow chose him anyway. But Wade saw her insecurities too. The way she'd tense when other women were around, comparing herself to bodies that fit conventional standards. How she'd make self-deprecating jokes before anyone else could. You're beautiful, he'd tell her, meaning it. You don't have to say that. I'm saying it because it's true. You're strong and smart and beautiful, Sarah Shepherd. And I'm falling in love with you. She'd cried then, but they were good tears. The 6 months ended on a Tuesday. Wade found Sarah in her usual spot, watching the horses in the training ring. He dismounted and led his gelding over, then did something he'd been planning for a week. He lowered himself from the saddle directly into her lap, wrapping his arms around her. Wade Thornton, you'll break my chair. Then I'll buy you a new one. He kissed her nose, her cheeks, her lips. Marry me, Sarah went still. What? Marry me? Not because of any arrangement or debt. Because I love you. Because you make me laugh and keep me honest, and because I can't imagine running this ranch, running my life without you. Wade, I can't. I'm not… If you're about to list all the reasons you think you're not good enough, save your breath. He cupped her face in his hands. You're everything I didn't know I needed. So what do you say? Will you marry this stubborn rancher and help him run the best operation in Montana? She searched his eyes, looking for doubt, for pity, for anything false. She found only love. Yes, she whispered. Yes, you impossible man. The wedding was small, held in the ranch's biggest barn with the whole town in attendance. Sarah wore a cream-colored dress that she'd picked out herself, refusing to hide in anything shapeless. Wade wore his best suit and couldn't stop smiling. His grandmother, resplendent in purple, winked at him from the front row. As Wade and Sarah exchanged vows, the setting sun streaming through the barn doors, he realized that sometimes the best things in life came from unexpected places. He'd been forced into this arrangement, sure. But he was choosing to stay, choosing her, every day for the rest of his life. I love you, he whispered as they sealed their vows with a kiss. I love you too, Sarah replied. Now let's go run a ranch, and they did. Together, as partners, as equals, as two people who'd found in each other exactly what they needed, even if it wasn't what they'd expected. The prairie stretched endless around them, full of possibility and promise, and Wade Thornton had never felt richer in his life.